There is a quiet moment many people experience when they arrive in the United States. A pause, a deep breath, and a simple realization. Life is starting over from zero. This moment is not dramatic. It is not cinematic. It is not heroic. It is simply heroic. For many, this moment feels familiar. A new environment, a different system. Unwritten rules that unfold slowly, one day at a time. Starting over in the US often means stepping into a landscape that is structured yet unfamiliar. A place shaped by routine, by personal responsibility, and by systems that reward consistency more than emotion. The first days usually feel slow. Documents, transportation, housing, schedules, everything moves forward, but in a way that demands patience. Some may recognize this experience as a reset, not a failure, just a new beginning shaped by practical realities. This chapter explores that reality, calmly, analytically, without exaggeration, without prediction, only what can be observed, what is commonly documented, and what many report in their quiet moments of adjustment. Starting over in the US involves a series of practical steps. These elements are widely discussed in research, recognized surveys, and government documents. They do not tell a dramatic story, but they reveal the structure of everyday life. 1. The administrative foundation. The U.S. operates on systems, identification, legal status, work authorization, taxation, and financial records. These systems are documented and publicly accessible through institutions like the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services and the IRS. For those starting a new life, these systems are the first steps. Confirming legal documents, registering addresses, understanding tax obligations. Each step requires accuracy. Each step takes time. Nothing surprising about that. But it often influences the emotional tone in the early months. The pace is steady, neither fast nor slow, just procedural. 2. The cost of living. The cost of living in the U.S. varies greatly, by region, supported by data from federal and state economic reports. Major cities tend to have higher housing costs. Rural and mid-sized areas usually have lower expenses. These facts are neutral. They don't carry judgment. They simply guide daily choices. Rent, utilities, food, transport, medical costs. Each becomes part of a predictable calculation. Starting over means navigating this calculation, step by step, often adjusting expectations. 3. Cultural adjustment. Cultural adaptation is hard to measure precisely, but its patterns are well documented. Daily life in the U.S. tends to emphasize independence, schedules, appointments, personal responsibility. For some, this provides clarity, but in all cases, it is part of the practical reality of starting anew. Conversations tend to be direct, processes follow rules. Systems operate with consistency, but not always flexibility. Small details become noticeable. The speed of work conversations, the structure of public services, customer interaction expectations. These are not obstacles. They are simply parts of a new environment that reveal themselves gradually. 4. Work and daily routine. Employment patterns in the U.S. follow established labor laws and industry norms. Jobs vary by region, education, and skills. These conditions are documented across public labor statistics. Starting over often means entering positions that are accessible, predictable, and stable, especially in the early months. This isn't always universal, but it's common. Schedules are regular. Timekeeping is strict. Performance is based on clear expectations. For many, this structure becomes the anchor of their new life. Not because it's easy, but because it is dependable. 5. Social connections. Building new relationships in the U.S. often takes time. This isn't due to dislike or exclusion. It's linked to cultural norms around privacy, responsibility, and routine. People often interact through workplaces, community centers, or shared interests. Large social gatherings are less common for newcomers. Smaller connections develop gradually. This slow pace is documented in studies on immigrant adaptation. It reflects a predictable pattern, not an emotional story. 6. Transportation and geography. The United States is vast geographically, with transportation patterns that vary greatly. Some regions depend heavily on personal vehicles. Others rely on public transit. These patterns are factual and supported by data from transportation agencies. and the census. For someone starting over, transportation becomes a daily consideration of time, cost, and routine. Short distances can feel long. Long distances can seem normal. The way we travel shapes our daily rhythm. 7. Emotional neutrality of the first year. The first year of starting over often feels quiet, not dramatic, not overwhelming, just steady. Many describe this period as a series of small steps. Secure housing, understand the environment, balance work, adjust expectations. Each step is small. Each step moves towards stability. Nothing happens quickly, but nothing is impossible. This calm progress reflects the practical reality, simple, observable, and widely recognized. When looking at the practical side of starting over in the U.S., different perspectives appear in research, public opinion, and observed patterns. These perspectives don't predict outcomes. They don't favor one side. They simply offer different views of the same reality. Perspective 1. Structured opportunity. Some analysts believe that the United States offers a stable foundation if you follow documented systems, step by step. They highlight clear legal processes, predictable labor laws, and extensive public information. This view sees structure as an advantage. It reduces uncertainty. It rewards consistency. Perspective 2. Challenging adaptation. Others argue that the first few months are tough because of complex systems and the cultural focus on independence. From this perspective, the challenge isn't about the country itself, but about the adjustment needed to understand its rhythm. The paperwork, the cost of living, personal responsibility, all add weight to early experiences. Perspective 3. Neutral practicality. A third view emphasizes neutrality. It estimated whether starting over in the U.S. is easier or harder than in other developed countries. This perspective notes that outcomes depend on personal factors like experience, financial stability, language skills, and support. Here, the U.S. is neither especially difficult nor easy. It's simply structured in its way. Perspective 4. The silent emotional layer. Some analysts suggest the emotional side of starting over is understated. Not because emotions are dramatic, but because they are subtle. Quiet moments, small adjustments, steady pacing, each creates a psychological environment that influences adaptation quietly. Perspective 5. The power of routine. Others see routine as a stabilizer. Wake up, organize documents, learn the surroundings, repeat. Routine isn't seen as a burden, but as a foundation for long-term stability. Perspective 6. The mobility debate. It's debated whether moving around geographically helps or complicates the experience. Some move often seeking better opportunities. Others stay put to build stability. Both patterns exist. Both are documented. Neither fully defines the overall experience. Starting over in the U.S. involves practical steps, legal procedures, work, housing, culture, transportation. Routine. Nothing about this is exaggerated. Nothing is minimized. It simply unfolds as a structured landscape over time. Many recognize the quiet weight of these early months. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just real. This chapter has looked at the neutral, observable parts of that experience. And now, the question remains, what will history ultimately say about this chapter? There is a moment, often quiet. When a person starts over in the United States, they begin to understand the deeper structure of daily life. The practical reality is one layer. The financial system is another. These two layers connect. They shape choices. They influence stability. They create the rhythm of a new beginning. For many individuals, this part of the journey feels familiar. A mix of routine, measurement, and constant calculation. Nothing about this process is dramatic. Nothing feels exaggerated. It is simply the financial structure of a modern economy revealing itself slowly. One bill, one paycheck, one decision at a time. Some may recognize this as the turning point, where adaptation becomes long-term planning, not ambition, not pressure, just steady understanding. This chapter explores that landscape, calmly, analytically, without speculation, without emotional language, only what is documented, what is widely accepted, and what shapes the financial reality of starting over in the United States. Financial discipline in the United States is built on predictable principles. These principles are not based on opinion. They are supported by publicly available reports, economic statistics, and commonly accepted financial practices. They form the foundation of economic stability for individuals, beginning from zero. 1. The structure of income and expenses. Most households in the United States operate within a monthly financial cycle. Income arrives on a schedule. Expenses follow their own routine: rent, utilities, transportation, food, insurance, taxes. These categories appear consistently across federal housing studies, labor reports, and consumer expenditure surveys. They reflect real patterns in daily life. For someone starting fresh, the structure becomes clear. Income must exceed expenses. A simple equation, a precise expectation, not emotional, just mathematical. 2. The role of a budget. The concept of a budget is widely discussed across financial education resources, government programs, and consumer protection agencies. A budget is not a dramatic tool. It is not a symbol of limitation. It is a written map of inflow and outflow. Housing often represents the largest share of expenses. This is supported by data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Transportation and food usually follow. A budget reveals these patterns clearly. It shows what is possible, what is sustainable, and what needs adjustment. For many people, this written clarity becomes the first step towards stability. 3. Building a credit profile. Credit systems in the United States are verifiable through major credit bureaus and consumer finance laws. They measure a person's history of borrowing and repayment. Credit scores influence loan approval, interest rates, housing applications, utility deposits. Sometimes, employment background checks. These facts are well documented and widely accepted. For someone starting over, the credit system appears slow at first. Small credit lines, low limits, simple transactions. But the system is designed to measure consistency, not wealth, on-time payments, low credit usage, responsible account management. These are the building blocks of a reliable credit profile. There is no mystery, no shortcuts. Only routine. 4. The value of emergency savings. Emergency funds are commonly recommended by financial advisors, universities, and non-profit financial education programs, not for prediction, but for protection. Unexpected events do occur. Medical bills, car repairs, short-term job interruptions. These events are part of life, widely recognized. Not speculative. An emergency fund acts as a buffer. It reduces stress. It increases stability. It prevents reliance on high-interest credit during difficult moments. Financial discipline is not measured by wealth. It is often measured by preparation. 5. Understanding taxes and withholding. The U.S. tax system is managed by the Internal Revenue Service. It operates under clear regulations. Most workers have taxes deducted from their paycheck. These funds cover federal income tax, Social Security, and Medicare. Each category is defined by law. Starting a new life requires understanding these basics. Not theories, not predictions, just the structure of taxation. Many people learn this system gradually, receiving their first paycheck, seeing deductions listed, realizing that take-home pay differs from total earnings. This understanding influences financial planning. It creates a realistic view of monthly finances. 6. The cost of debt. Debt in the United States is tracked through national financial institutions and consumer studies. Credit cards, personal loans, auto loans, student loans. Each has a specific interest rate. Each follows a predictable repayment plan. Credit card interest rates can be much higher than other kinds of debt. This is supported by consumer finance reports. Financial discipline involves awareness of these differences. Not emotional resistance, just clear observation. Debt is a tool, but tools require skill to manage. 7. The structure of work and income. Stability. Income stability often depends on employment type, industry, region, education. Experience. These patterns are well documented in labor statistics. Hourly workers may experience fluctuating schedules. Salaried workers usually receive steady pay. Neither system is better or worse. They simply function differently. For those starting fresh, the first months often involve hourly roles. These roles provide quick access to work, but they may include variable hours. Understanding this helps shape financial expectations. 8. managing living costs over time as people settle into life in the U.S. Their spending patterns typically become clearer. Grocery prices, utility bills, transportation costs, healthcare expenses. Each has its own structure. None of these are hidden. They are shown through bills, receipts, and official prices. Over time, people find ways to cut costs, choosing efficient transportation, managing utility use, comparing prices, planning meals. They are steady, calm improvements based on observable facts. 9. The psychological rhythm of financial discipline. Financial discipline is not just about numbers. It also has a psychological rhythm. Many people say the first few months feel slow. Progress is made step by step. Daily choices add up gradually. This pattern is often discussed in research on financial behavior. It reflects a realistic adaptation process. Discipline becomes a habit, a quiet effort, a steady routine. Over time, this routine becomes stable. Financial discipline in the United States can be viewed from several angles. These perspectives appear across economic commentary, academic analysis, and consumer behavior research. Perspective 1. Structure as stability. Some analysts suggest that the U.S. financial system provides a reliable framework for individuals who follow its established rules. They highlight the transparency of interest rates, the consistency of credit scoring, and the accessibility of financial education resources. From this view, discipline aligns with structure. Predictability becomes an advantage. Perspective 2. Complexity as a challenge. Others argue that the system feels complex to newcomers. They point to differences in taxation, insurance requirements, and credit systems compared to other countries. From this perspective, the challenge is not financial discipline itself, but the learning curve is required to navigate the environment. Perspective 3. The neutral landscape. A third viewpoint notes that financial discipline is neither easier nor harder in the United States compared to other developed nations. It remains debated whether the U.S. system is uniquely beneficial or uniquely demanding. This perspective focuses on neutrality. The system is structured. The tools exist. The outcome depends on habits, not on the country alone. Perspective 4. The debate on debt usage. Some analysts suggest that debt can be a useful tool when managed carefully. They highlight credit growth, responsible borrowing, and long-term benefits, such as improved credit scores. Others argue that high-interest debt carries significant risk. They emphasize the importance of minimizing credit card balances. It remains debated whether credit expansion or credit avoidance leads to better long-term stability. Both approaches have documented advantages and potential challenges. Perspective 5. The role of income. Income levels vary widely in the United States. Some analysts suggest that steady income, even at modest levels, supports strong financial discipline when combined with budgeting. Others argue that rising living costs limit the ability to build savings, especially in major cities. The discussion is ongoing. No single conclusion defines the whole reality. Perspective 6. The psychological component. Some analysts suggest that the emotional side of money management is often underestimated. They note that habits, stress levels, and decision fatigue can influence financial behavior. Others argue that financial discipline is primarily structural and can be maintained through objective routines. It remains debated whether emotion or structure plays the larger role. Financial discipline is not dramatic. It is not defined by sudden events. It is shaped by routine. A paycheck, a bill, a decision, a small adjustment. These moments accumulate. They form the foundation of stability for individuals starting over in the United States. The system is structured. The expectations are clear. The tools are accessible. Each person navigates this environment at their own pace, calmly, quietly. And now the question arises: what will history ultimately conclude about this chapter? There is a point in every new beginning, a quiet internal shift. When a person begins to think beyond mere survival, the paperwork is handled. The daily routine becomes familiar. The financial structure becomes clear, and then the mind starts to settle. For many starting over in the United States, this moment arrives gradually. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly. As the noise of adjustment diminishes, some may recognize this feeling. A sense that stability is within reach, a sense that life is forming into predictable patterns. This chapter focuses on that internal environment. Not motivation, not hype, just the practical mindset patterns documented in psychology, behavior research, and adaptation studies. A mindset rooted in discipline, clarity, realistic expectations, and calm effort. No predictions, no emotional exaggeration, only what can be observed, what has been studied, and what consistently appears in the lives of people building new lives in the United States. The mindset needed to start over is not abstract. It is based on widely accepted principles of human behavior. These principles appear in academic research on adaptation, resilience, and long-term decision making. 1. The power of routine is one of the most proven factors in successful adaptation. Research across psychology shows that predictable habits decrease stress and foster stability. Wake up, work, organize tasks, manage finances, rest. This rhythm is simple, it is not unique to the United States, but it becomes especially vital for those starting from zero. Routine creates clarity, it provides structure to uncertainty, it reduces unnecessary decisions. The mind becomes calmer, more focused, more capable of planning long term. 2. Realistic expectations. Studies on immigrant adjustment often emphasize the importance of realistic expectations. Not pessimism, not optimism, just accuracy. Expectations grounded in reality often lessen disappointment. They also improve decision making. For example, starting in an entry-level job is common. Saving takes time. Fee credit builds slowly. Fee credit, social connections develop gradually. These statements are not emotional. They are supported by research on adaptation patterns. Realistic expectations foster stability. They reduce impulsive decisions. They enable people to make steady progress over time. 3. Patience as a practical skill. Patience is often viewed as an emotional trait, but in the context of starting over, it becomes a practical skill. Government processes take time. Job opportunities come gradually. Financial growth occurs month by month. These timelines are not speculative. They are documented across public systems. Understanding them reduces stress. Patience becomes a form of efficiency. It prevents unnecessary worry. It helps people navigate long-term processes calmly. 4. Observation over reaction. Observation is a widely recognized method for adapting to new environments. People learn by watching how workplaces communicate, how neighborhoods function, how public services operate, how daily interactions are managed. Observation replaces assumption. It cuts down mistakes. It deepens understanding. Many starting new lives in the United States rely on quiet observation, not to avoid action, but to ensure clarity before making decisions. 5. Consistency. Consistency is one of the most supported concepts in behavioral science. Small repeated actions lead to measurable results. Consistent payment habits, work attendance, swipe managing documents, financial actions, the communication patterns. These contribute to stability in clear ways. Credit scores improve through consistency. Trust with employers grows through regularity. Housing stability depends on reliability. These facts are not emotional, they are structural. 6. Learning through small steps. Research shows that sustainable progress comes from small, incremental steps, not large leaps, not sudden changes. Learning a language, understanding systems, building a network, developing skills. Each process is slow. Each builds on the previous day. Each becomes manageable when divided into small actions. This approach is supported across many academic fields. It offers a realistic path rather than an idealized one. 7. Psychological adaptation of starting over. Starting over often involves changes in identity, not loss, not reinvention, just adaptation. People carry skills, memories, and experiences from their previous lives. They learn how to apply them in their new environment. Research shows that adaptation is neither straight nor the same for everyone. It happens in phases: initial adjustment, stabilization, growth, integration. These phases appear consistently across studies on relocation and cultural change. Understanding this pattern helps people stay patient with themselves. It shows that quiet internal progress is still progress. 8. The role of focus. Focus is tied to efficiency. Research indicates that limited attention yields better results when aimed at clear goals. For those starting over, this often means focus on documentation first. Focus on financial discipline third. Focus on long-term growth later. This sequence is not strict. It is a pattern seen in many successful adaptation stories. Focus brings clarity. Clarity lessens stress. Less stress boosts productivity. 9. The mindset of non-comparison studies show that comparing yourself to others raises stress, decreases satisfaction, and hurts performance. This is especially true for newcomers. Comparing early progress to long-term residents isn't helpful. They have different timelines, different environments, different starting points. Non-comparison creates mental space. It allows people to go at their own pace. It also strengthens internal stability. 10. Acceptance of the slow process. Finding success in a new environment is often slow. This pattern shows up in social mobility studies. Slow progress is normal. Steady progress is possible. Fast progress is rare, but not necessary for long-term success. This mindset lessens pressure. It aligns expectations with reality. It promotes sustainable growth. 11. Gathering information as a strategy. Having access to information is a key factor in successful adaptation. Understanding 40 Syria responsibilities, 40 community resources, 40 local rules, 40 employment, norm sorting financial systems builds confidence and cuts confusion. Gathering information becomes a form of empowerment, not emotional but practical. Knowledge helps reduce mistakes. It improves accuracy. It aids efficient decision making. 12. The calm approach to challenges. Research on resilience shows calm responses lead to better outcomes. Not avoidance, not intensity, just stability. Calm decision making assists people to navigate workplace issues, manage financial surprises, communicate clearly, plan ahead. Calmness doesn't make problems disappear. It simply reduces unnecessary friction. There are many ways to see the mindset needed for success. When starting over in the US, these ideas come from studies, public talks, and psychology. Perspective 1. Mindset as the main factor. Some experts think mindset is the most important factor for long-term progress. They say routine, patience, and consistent habits matter more than external conditions. They believe the internal mindset is the base. Perspective 2. External factors matter more. Others think external things, like income, location, and opportunities, are more influential than mindset. From this view, success mainly depends on the environment. Mindset helps, but infrastructure sets the pace. Perspective 3. Balance of both. Another view is that success needs both internal discipline and strong external support. It is debated whether one is more important. This outlook emphasizes the connection between mindset and environment. Both are needed, neither alone. Perspective 4. Cultural adaptation. Some say adapting to cultural norms influences mindset more than expected. Knowing communication styles, workplace expectations, and social boundaries can boost confidence. Others believe that cultural adaptation happens naturally over time. They see structure as more important initially. Perspective 5. Long-term thinking. Some suggest long-term thinking fosters emotional stability and financial discipline. Research shows people who plan ahead tend to make steady progress. Others see short-term stability as the first step, with long-term plans developing later. Both views are common in public research. Mindset doesn't guarantee results. It doesn't ensure success or remove challenges, but mindset creates stability. It influences how someone navigates unfamiliar systems. It shapes patience, clarity, and calm decision making. Starting over in the US needs practical habits, steady routines, realistic expectations, and quiet consistency. Nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated, just the mental environment that allows stability to grow slowly over time. This chapter looked at these ideas through patterns and widely accepted behavioral principles. Now the reflection continues. What will history ultimately conclude about this chapter? There is a final moment in every journey of starting over. A moment when the past, the present, and the developing future all meet in a quiet reflection. For many in the United States, this moment doesn't come with noise. It arrives slowly, gently, almost unnoticed. It is the moment when the first months of uncertainty begin to feel organized, when daily routines become familiar, when financial stability seems possible, when the mindset becomes calm, steady, and observant. Some may see this moment as a turning point, not a climax, not a dramatic breakthrough, just a quiet shift from survival to stability, and from stability to growth. This closing chapter is T about prediction. It isn't T about promise. It's not about emotion. It's about observation. What is verifiable, widely recognized, and becomes clear after examining the practical, financial, and psychological realities of starting over in the U.S. The act of beginning a new life is shaped by several consistent elements which emerge across social research, economic studies, and documented experiences. This chapter brings them together as a calm summary of observable patterns. 1. Stability grows slowly. Research on adaptation shows that stability develops gradually through small steps: housing, employment, transportation, documentation. Each becomes more manageable over time. Nothing about this process is sudden. It's a steady progression supported by routine and clear expectations. This slow pace isn't unique to the U.S. It reflects a broader human pattern. Stability emerges through consistency. 2. Financial structure creates foundation. Financial discipline is the backbone of long-term stability, supported by consumer behavior studies, economic surveys, and financial research. Budgeting reduces uncertainty. Credit building expands opportunity. Emergency savings reduce stress. Responsible debt management protects progress. These are not theories. They are practical components of daily life. For many, this financial foundation becomes the first sign that their new life is working. 3. Mindset shapes the experience. Previous chapters show that mindset isn't just about emotion or optimism. It's about practical behaviors backed by psychological research. Routine, patience, consistent habits, observation, clarity, each contributes to daily adaptation. They reduce stress, increase focus, and enable long-term progress. Mindset becomes a quiet tool, not a dramatic force, just a steady internal guide. 4. Community and environment influence progress. Studies on relocation indicate that environment matters. Neighborhoods, workplaces, local resources, transportation, external factors shape daily life. Rhythm influence cost of living, access to opportunities, and the pace of developing stability. While environment doesn't determine outcomes, it frames the context for decisions. 5. Learning becomes a daily habit. Adapting requires ongoing learning, not academic, but practical, understanding systems, workplace communication, financial tools. This learning process, documented across adaptation research, grows slowly, compounds, and builds confidence. Learning becomes part of daily life, not a task but a natural response to a new environment. 6. The quiet weight of responsibility. Starting over often carries a sense of responsibility, reflected in discussions about immigration, relocation, and economic independence. This responsibility isn't dramatic. It's simple. Maintain stability, follow procedures, make careful decisions. This quiet sense of responsibility becomes one of the most predictable parts of new beginnings. 7. The balance between past and present. Research on identity and relocation shows that individuals carry aspects of their past into their new environment. Skills, values, experiences, memories. These elements are not erased. They do not disappear. They simply blend with the structure of the new environment. This balance shapes the emotional rhythm of starting over. It creates a sense of connection between what was known and what is now emerging. 8. The measurable aspects of progress. Progress is not always visible, but it can be measured. A first apartment lease, a stable job schedule, a growing credit score, 5. Predictable monthly budget, comfortable transportation routine, 5. A quiet sense of familiarity in daily life. These are the indicators discussed across economic and social research. They show that life is moving forward, calmly, steadily, realistically. 9. The long-term view. While predictions are not allowed under truth protocol, one fact remains widely accepted: long-term stability is connected to long-term discipline. This is supported by decades of data in financial research, labor studies, and adaptation psychology. Discipline over time creates opportunity, not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually. This long-term view shapes the closing chapter of any journey of starting over. Different perspectives exist regarding what defines success when starting over. These perspectives appear across academic literature, commentary, and public discussion. Perspective 1. Structure as the key element. Some analysts suggest that success is primarily determined by the structural systems of the United States. Legal procedures, labor markets, financial systems, local resources. From this viewpoint, individuals succeed when they align with established structures. Perspective 2. Individual habits as the core factor. Others argue that internal habits, routine, discipline, patience, play the most significant role. They highlight behavioral research showing that consistent habits often outweigh external conditions. According to this perspective, the internal environment determines long-term outcomes. Perspective 3. The combined model. A third viewpoint suggests that both structure and mindset must align. It remains debated whether one factor carries more influence than the other. This interpretation sees success as a balance between external opportunity and internal discipline. Perspective 4. The influence of social connection. Some analysts suggest that social support, friends, community networks, local organizations, significantly impacts adaptation. Others argue that many individuals succeed independently through regulation, discipline, and predictable routines. The discussion continues with no single conclusion. Perspective 5. The debate over pace. Some analysts suggest that slow progress is normal and should be expected. They point to data showing that adaptation and financial stability require time. Others argue that strong opportunities can accelerate progress under certain circumstances. It remains debated whether pace is determined more by conditions or by consistency. The reality of starting over in the United States is not defined by dramatic events. It is defined by structure, by routine, by financial clarity, by quiet internal discipline. The journey begins with uncertainty, then moves into stability, then gradually forms a life built on predictable habits. This closing chapter does not offer answers. It does not make predictions. It does not promise outcomes. It simply reflects what can be observed. People adjust. People learn. People build stability through discipline. People grow at their own pace within a structured environment. The story of starting over is not loud. It is calm, steady, measured, and deeply human. And now, the final reflection remains. What will history ultimately conclude about this chapter?